following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Ambar Garcia, Bryan Broaddus, Nick Harris, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025, Season 21, Episode number 1. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We're live from the SWBC Studios.
Wow.
At the Star.
First day of the new league year.
It is the first day of the league year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Man.
Not a surprise. Day one.
I don't know. It's just always funny how we do episode numbers.
Why is that?
What did we end up with, by the way?
We ended up with 105.
Ooh, there you go.
105. A little less than we did last year, so we're going to have to talk about that.
These guys kept disappearing on us.
I think last year we did like I want to say we did like 117 last year, so I don't know, we got to have some conversations about that. See how we can get that back up. I'm sure the listeners out there are like, yeah, I know it's been a problem. So we'll figure it out.
Other podcasts you can look at too.
Stop it. We're not going to promote all your other podcasts. You got 20 of them.
The draft show. Look at the draft show.
Yeah, draft show. Yeah, you could definitely go check out the draft show.
Foch and I have a show together. You can do that too.
I'll do. Okay.
Free agency.
Free agency. Let's talk free agency. I do want to first start. I want to get just just your general thoughts on free agency. I'm not talking about even the Cowboys specifically. Just the first couple days of free agency across the NFL. Anything pop out to you? Anything interesting to you worth noting?
You said across the NFL.
Across the NFL, just in free agency this year, the tone of it.
Yeah, I think you look at the Niners and then them kind of blowing up that roster in a way. I think that's a fascinating situation that's happened there. Philadelphia, yeah, they've lost some guys too, but at San Francisco, it really looks like they are just getting ready to pay this quarterback, and they're getting rid of all the extra pieces that they don't feel like they'll need. So, I mean, whether it's letting Kyle Juszczyk go, who's a guy who's been one of their culture locker room leaders for a long time, or trading Deebo Samuel, or letting Charvarius Ward or Talifo Hufanga go. I mean,
talented players.
Yeah, a lot of talented players on both sides of the ball. San Francisco has gone from, they're going to have a luxury to pick whoever they want at 11 to, they might need to pick for need at 11. So, that's been the thing that's probably stood out to me the most. I don't think there's anything too surprising about, certain free agents landing with certain teams. It really doesn't matter until the preseason or season comes around, and then you can kind of evaluate it. I think Devontae Adams to the Rams is fun, but aside from that, I don't really buy into the this free agent's going to help him win the Super Bowl ordeal until we get to the season.
I hate free agency.
Is it because you're here?
No,
it's because he's a draft guy.
I hate what they've done with it. When I was in pro personnel, Derek said episode 1. Today was the day we started free agency. It was the first day of the league year. I hate this tampering period. I hate this because to me, like I said, we used to meet, we put a board together. We would talk about what players we were going after, and then when it was 12:01, you went and did free agency. Now it's like 3 days, and then it really takes kind of the luster away from it from a standpoint of covering it. I like the buildup. I like the day of when when the league year started, and you're able to boom, and Jacksonville and the Rams and everybody was doing stuff, and now it's kind of like anticlimactic the way that this thing is rolling along. I mean, you're kind of into like tier 4, tier 5 of players, maybe 5 and 6, whereas before, and it sounds very back of the day to me, but I hate it. I hate the fact that they have this tampering period. The tampering period was going to the combine and walking around and then tampering with guys. And then when the new season opened, then you heard all these names.
That still happens.
I just don't like the buildup. I don't like the fact that there's that tampering period before. I think it just takes away from how much I really, really did enjoy it one-time free agency.
To me, this year has been completely different in my experience because, and this is all personal, but I personally, for personal reasons, have stopped using Twitter or X. So a lot of the toxicity and just crazy things that, because it happens a lot where fans start creating this content that is not real and just, a lot of fake news things that fans create on their own and a lot of criticism. So I haven't been consuming some of that. Most of that. It's not part of my life right now. So it's just been an easy, unless something drastic happens, something crazy, because a lot of the things that currently happen during this stage is fans start comparing what the Cowboys are doing, not doing, versus what other teams have been doing or have done in the previous years. So that just taking in, I think, in comparison to previous years too, I feel like we've been a little busier this year when it comes to those external signings as far as the timeline. Usually it takes the Cowboys like a couple of days and then we start hearing of those external signings. But now, before the official date, which is today, we started hearing yesterday, the day before, which doesn't tend to occur because I have to create those graphics and put things together, put it out. So I think the difference there I've noticed from the Cowboys aspect is, even though these have not been groundbreaking signings, they're still making moves a lot earlier than what they're used to.
That is true. I think typically we've all gotten accustomed to that first week, those first few days of free agency, the Cowboys really not being a part of that unless they're signing their own guys. They do have several signings that they've made this week. Again, not groundbreaking by any means. And I think we talked about this on our last show. I don't think any of us had the expectation the Cowboys are going to be out there just throwing money around in free agency. The expectation was that maybe they'd get a couple guys here and there that they thought maybe could help them and fill spots. And it sounds like maybe we're going to get into some scouting reports here a little bit later in the show. But it sounds like maybe they may have gotten some guys who can be depth pieces. The way I look at this is maybe they're restoring some of what they lost last year when it came to depth. I don't know that they brought in any guys you expect immediately are going to step in and be great players for you. But maybe some of that depth you lost last offseason is going to be restored a bit, and then maybe you can use through the draft, you can kind of fix some of this as well. Let's talk about the Cowboys list of free agents, some of the guys that they've re-signed. To this point, they've re-signed Oso Digizua, who we talked about last week. Kevontae Turpin just happened yesterday. That was, I think, another important signing for them. They also had signed Brock Hoffman, Wanye Thomas, C.J. Goodwin, Bryan Anger happens yesterday, Trent Sieg, Marquise Bell, Tyra Sweet. Again, a lot of players that are really more depth players, not really thinking about starters other than Osa and Kevontae, are more the starter types. Mm-hmm. That being said, look at the other side of that
the special
coin.
teams group.
Right, the whole special teams group is back, which, I'll ask that question because I thought they would probably try to get Trent Sieg back because when you have a good long snapper, you just try to keep him in place. It's no reason to go and try to find
where
another
it starts.
one. Yeah, but my question is Bryan Anger, and I don't know what your thoughts are, but tell me what you thought of his play this last year relative to how he's played in years past and whether you thought this was a good signing for the Cowboys.
Any thoughts on punters?
I think there was a little bit of a regress, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's a huge ordeal. Yes, he's 36, and yes, you have him for 2 more years. He's going to be 38 by the time he walks out that door. But I think keeping consistency for Brandon Aubrey is probably the most important thing here. And he's the holder for he's the only NFL holder that Brandon Aubrey has known. I think that's more important than the quote-unquote regress that he had last year.
Yeah, you only notice it when you're really bad on offense. Then you notice that, like, okay, why are teams field position much better? There was a time when you can really count on Bryan Anger. It would be backed up, and then he'd uncork a 54-yard punt with towards the sidelines, and then there would be no return. And now you flip the field a little bit in your direction. We saw that far less from him last year on that. It was not as many of those punts where you're like, okay, he clearly changed the direction of where this team is about to start their drive. So, it's something you really, like I say, you notice it when teams field position after a punt, and you also notice it though when also then the returners are bringing the ball back on you. That maybe that there's some short punts, they're able to field them. He's done a really good job in his career with the Cowboys of being a directional punter. And I think that that's something that I'll always appreciate about with his game. But, it's something that I didn't see as much last year, where he was uncorking those punts that kind of flip fields.
Yeah, I understand why you posed the question, Derek, but just like that, he had some hiccups, but overall, not enough for you to not want to bring him back. And just like Nick mentioned, the importance he brings to Brendan Aubrey. And Aubrey, in an interview that he did, he voiced that opinion where he would want both him and
Sieg. Yeah.
Trent Sieg. I can never say his last name, but Trent. He would want both of them to come back, and it is important to. And when you see what these guys are doing, I mean, the chemistry between those three guys, and Aubrey and Anger is just something that you don't want to break. It keeps that continuity. I can't even say that word. Continuity. Whatever. Yeah, it just stays the same, and it's good. And I think also when you see those hiccups with a new coach, I think the coach is always a believer that they can change and improve players. So I think that's the idea behind that as well.
Okay, so looking at the two, I think the most important signings that the Cowboys have had of keeping their own guys, Osa and Turpin, which do you think was a more important deal to get done for this team?
Osa for sure. Bringing him back and having that pass rush come out of the interior, especially with a defensive line coach like Aaron Whitecotton, who has maximized interior pass rush throughout his time with the New York Jets. So when you combine that with what Matt Eberflus is trying to do with that 3-tech spot, and how he has done that with the entirety of his career, bringing Osa back and getting him back on that team-friendly deal certainly helps out, I think, more. And Turpin helps out, but I think, his offensive output is going to be limited, even if you do put an emphasis on getting him more involved. How valuable is a returner at the end of the day? And I'm not trying to speak down on Kevontae Turpin. He's the best returner in the game, and I think it was valuable to bring him back. Ask the Commanders, yeah, for sure, 100%. But how valuable really is a returner at the end of the day? I just don't see it as much as a 3-tech for sure.
I think there's a couple of different ways, and I've been very, very critical of this front office for some of the signings that they've had or lack of. And I'll give them credit for this one. They did a great job of working with this agent and getting Osa done for under, if you follow along where the money went, for $20 million a year. And then you have other defensive tackles signing for $26, $27 million. What it effectively did by getting this deal done, you got a player back that really, really helped you last year. One of the better defensive players. You had him and Jordan Lewis. But it also allowed you to go out and sign two guys. You were able to sign Solomon Thomas, and you were able to sign Peyton Turner as well with the money that you saved there. So you basically got three players for the price of what you probably were going to have to pay Osa Digizua. So, good for them getting that done on that end. I'll say this about Turpin. You don't sign him just to be a returner here. This is now 11 personnel stuff. Mm-hmm. He is going to be a part of that. He's whether you liked it or not, he showed up. There were times when, they put him in the backfield and handed him the ball. And there was explosive plays, and you could steal with the pop passes, the jet sweeps, the screens and stuff. This guy's going to be your third wide receiver. He's going to be an 11 personnel. He's not going to be just a returner anymore. I think this coaching staff is going to use him in that way. So I don't look at him as just that returner. But I like what the Cowboys did by getting Osa done, because I think it also afforded him a couple of other players along the way.
See, with my answer, it's kind of weird the way I'm going to phrase this, but for me, Osa has a higher ceiling. Like, I feel like with Osa, I still have a lot more to see. I think he can do a lot more that's more impactful, especially on defense. And that's not to say Kevontae doesn't have a lot more that he can bring to the table. In fact, I do think he does, but based on the previous coaching staff and the opportunities that he has been given, I think that it never quite fully works out. And I'm saying in the way for you to maximize his potential. Now, you have a completely different coaching staff at the moment, so maybe there's a change in that where we can see him progress in other areas, just like Bryan mentioned. But based on previous years, I think right now I feel that Osa has a lot more to give in a more impactful way on the defensive side.
All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the players that Dallas has lost from their 2024 roster and the impact that some of those players may have on this upcoming season. We'll talk about it when we come back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
Don't put off getting your oil change, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. They're so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's Stay in Your Car 10-minute oil change at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. That means you won't even have time to show off your best touchdown celebration. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
From the field to the festivities, Lucchese embodies the essence of luxury and tradition. Handcrafted with meticulous precision, each pair offers unmatched comfort and style. Stand tall while you're tailgating or cheering in the stands with the Dallas Cowboys collection by Lucchese. Shop the collection today at the Lucchese store at the Star in Frisco or online at lucchese.com. Lucchese, the official boot of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
How do you tell the world about all the great gifts in the Yeti store? Let her rip, Troy.
All right, folks, let's get started with the Yeti French Press. Enjoy coffee that stays hot for hours in a French press. 34 ounce for you, 6'4" for the cruise. The Yeti French Press. Up next, waterproof bags. Bags waterproof. Submersible waterproof doubles. Waterproof bags. World's mostly water, so get a waterproof Yeti bag. Do I smell something cooking? Oh, new cast iron skillets made to be passed down like Mama's recipes. Take a steak, cornbread, cobbler's pot pie, and potatoes next level with 3 sizes of Yeti cast iron skillets.
Gear, gifts, and product experts. Visit the Yeti store on McKinney Street and at South Lake Town Square today.
Back to the break.
LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game, but don't take our word for it. Digital Trends said that LG OLED G4 has the best picture quality they've ever seen. See it for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of the break. We're live from SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, and the segment brought to you by blockchain.com. All right, let's talk about some of the guys that Cowboys have lost. I think the biggest one is Jordan Lewis. I made it clear last week that after they signed Osa, I was like, this is the next guy I really, really want them to bring back. But the deal that he got, it was probably something the Cowboys wouldn't or couldn't pay, and certainly was something he couldn't pass up. A 3-year, $30 million deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars, $20 million of that guaranteed. A heck of a haul for him. That being said, what do you think of the deal, and do you think it was something the Cowboys maybe should have entertained, spending that much money on a nickel corner?
I don't want to get into the weeds of financially, because yes, they financially could afford it, but then talk about X, that'd be a whole conversation there. I say, looking at the $10 million per year, making him the richest nickel in the NFL, I understand why the Cowboys maybe could have passed on a contract like that. Granted, there is probably no other guy in that locker room you would like to retain more than him. So you also factor that in. And I did a radio call with a guy in Jacksonville after the signing happened, and he was asking me, he's like, so what is the full package of Jordan Lewis? Not only on the field and off the field. And as I was starting to talk about all the things he's contributed off the field from a locker room perspective, from a media perspective, community perspective, I was like, man, this is a big loss. And then you factor in the on the field play. He had his best season in 2024, but when this 3-year contract is up, he's going to be well into his 30s. He's going to be 33, I believe, when he hits free agency again, if that contract runs all the way through. And if you're paying $10 million for a guy that's 32 years old, a few years from now at that nickel spot, that's a tough position to have longevity at. So I understand it, but man, that is a tough loss for the Cowboys. That was a guy that I know that they wanted to retain, just probably not at that price and definitely not at that length.
A couple things happened here. I don't think they expected to lose him. If you go back and you kind of study some of the things that were done leading up to free agency, we've seen lists of top 75 free agents, top 100 free agents. Jordan Lewis wasn't on a lot of those lists. Now, there's the problem. A lot of pro personnel guys are watching tape.
Yeah.
They're watching your team play. So you didn't see Jordan Lewis on that list.
By a media person.
By media people. Yeah. But you damn well knew that Jordan Lewis in the pro personnel circles, teams knew where Jordan Lewis was.
Yep.
One of the better players you had when things were going awful. Jordan Lewis, he was the one guy that could sit in this film room behind me when they were breaking down the game, and he could be proud about the way he played. I don't think there's a lot of guys that could say that every week, but he could. And so it's not surprising to me that he signed somewhere else. I think this one caught Dallas by surprise a little bit, though. I thought maybe that they were going to feel like that they were going to get him back. But, Jacksonville, cap space, new coach, new things going on down there. It's too good of an offer for Jordan Lewis to pass, and congratulations to him, because on and off the field, he's the one guy that, and Ambar likes to talk about this, he is the one guy that survived everybody that doubted him. He was the one guy standing at the end of the day. Everybody else who doubted him is no longer here. And so good for him for getting that deal.
Yeah, you can only root for a guy like that, and congratulations to him and what he was able to get. And I've never been in a lot of these contract negotiations, obviously, in the NFL, but I would assume that the way it works is like, hey, this team is offering me this. What can you offer me? Can you match the offer? Can you give me more? Like, where are we at? If you don't meet that, then obviously you go with the highest bid. And I think this is what happened. At the same time, I've heard the Cowboys discuss this multiple times in the way they handle certain things, where it's like, okay, you can get this player for X amount of money, or you can get this other player, that other player, 3 more players that can add depth in other positions that are clearly needed. And that's the way that I think, how I see it, is what happened here. They saw more value, not that they don't see the value in Jordan, but at this time, they just saw more value in spreading their money around and adding depth in other positions that are clearly needed on the team right now.
Yeah, I think we all agree this would have been a difficult deal for Dallas to do in some respects, but the reality is when you look at what's left, it took a position that was already a bit challenged and made it maybe the position that's most challenged on this team right now. You look at Trayvon Diggs; he's out hurt and don't really know exactly when he's going to be back. The suspicion is maybe you'll have him back by the season, but that's not a guarantee. Then you got DaRon Bland, you got Kalen Carson, who last year they kind of threw in the fire probably a little early because they had to because of injuries, and we'll see how much he develops. But based on all that, where do you say, how much do you think this has impacted Dallas, and has this become for you a position where they really now may be in a really, really tough position?
Yeah, to the point where you would look at it at 12. I think there's a couple of guys in play here. We talked about it here at the break a little bit, but I think you do have to keep an eye on Will Johnson from Michigan, the corner there. There's some corners in this draft that are outstanding players. A lot of them coming off injuries. Some of the top ones, if you talk about Ravel from East Carolina, Morrison from Notre Dame. You don't have a 40-yard dash time on Will Johnson. He's got a hamstring problem that he's dealing with. April 14th is that day there. There's a lot of questions about these corners at the top of this board. And even if they would have signed Jordan Lewis, I think corner was still in play. Defensive tackle, corner, running back, wide receiver. Man, just take your pick. I don't think that's changed at all for them.
Your only healthy cornerbacks on the roster right now, as we sit today, are DaRon Bland Andrew Booth Jr., Keemon Hall, and Kalen Carson. And if the season were to start today, you'd probably be starting Andrew Booth or Keemon Hall.
Well, we're glad the season isn't starting
You're
today.
very
And this
glad
is
that
day
this is-
one of the league year.
League year. Happy New Year. We still got 6 months. But yeah, it's they're going to have to address corner, and they can't only just do it in the draft. They need to go get a guy in free agency as well. They need to go get a body there, a veteran body, bring in somebody that can compete for a starting job, whether that be on the outside or the inside. Losing Jordan Lewis, you do have a little bit of flexibility in the sense that Deron Bland has played inside, going back to his rookie year. But if you're asking Deron Bland, I bet you he's going to want to stick on the outside because the money's better there.
The compensatory picks were announced yesterday. I'm sure Derek's going to go through that, all the 5th-round picks. I'm going to make a prediction. Dallas is going to look in the trade market, much like they did with Gilmore and Cooks with those 5s. They're going to they're
3 of them.
Yeah, they're going to look at, and they got that, they got a 6-2, but they're going to, I think that they're going to, and those picks are all kind of back to back to each other if you look at it. So keep an eye on, I think Dallas is exploring adding a player through trade like they did earlier, actually a couple years ago with Gilmore and Cooks.
What are your thoughts on guys like Asante Samuel Jr., Rasul Douglas? These are 2 cornerbacks that are still available right now in free agency. Would you look at either of those 2 guys, or do you really think this is going to have to come from either a player that's on another roster or the draft?
I'm more of a Rasul Douglas guy if we're looking at both of those. Asante Samuel has had some issues in the past defending the run, and I don't want 2 corners that can't defend the run. Has also had some issues in playing man press. I want a physical corner if I'm going to go out and spend money on one. That's why I'm more of a Rasul Douglas guy. Granted, he is older, but I think you do need a veteran in that room.
Yeah, I and they might not take Samuel because of his way he's built.
Yeah,
he's a smaller guy.
Reason why he's not great.
Yeah, I mean,
man press,
all of a sudden you're starting to talk about, now you have to look. Will McClay is very specific about what he's looking at for these corners. So there's some guys on this list. I mean, we've talked about Barron from Texas. Gosh, what a great player.
Man, he's a good player.
But he might not fit the metrics that you're looking at with this front office. So, that eliminates one right there that. Me personally, man, this kid reminds me of Trent McDuffie from the Kansas City, the way he plays.
That would be.
But if you don't like Trent McDuffie, I don't know what I can do for you.
Yeah,
it's gonna be tough.
I saw him comp to Brian Branch, and I was like, bring me another Brian Branch.
I think actually that Brian Branch is. I don't know if you could play Barron as that linebacker kind of thing, because you see Branch play down a lot. But man, a very good player. Very good.
And they moved him around. Texas moved him around in the secondary a ton. He has flexibility. He has position.
Absolutely,
sure. He can do a lot of different things.
I think I was gonna say, don't be surprised if we do actually see some kind of trade happening for that position, because
I think absolutely
at the moment, and just like you said, Nick, this has to happen before the draft, because even if you're looking to, let's say, draft a corner, you still, based on everything that the Cowboys always say, they want to be able to feel good enough on every position or most positions prior to getting into the draft, so that they're not fully forced to draft a certain player, and that they can go more the best player available approach. But yeah, don't be surprised for some trades happening in the near future.
Yeah.
A couple of quotes last week from Jerry and Stephen Jones about the idea of a trade. This is from after the Zach Martin presser. Jerry Jones says that draft picks this time of year are at a premium and could be used a lot more in a trade. He says the team has the, quote, bait out on trade possibilities, but will wait for other teams to come to them. And then Stephen Jones later on, when asked about big names floating around the trade market, he said, "We're looking for what fits and what works for us. Big names, in my mind, aren't always the answer. Big names don't always pan out as well." But then he went into describing, Saquon Barkley and that being a big name that worked out for Philadelphia. But I think this team is certainly looking at trade possibilities. Stephen Jones mentioned it in Indianapolis. When you have 10 draft picks, you can certainly use 1 or 2 on getting a veteran.
All right, let's take our final break. We'll come back. We have a couple other guys that we'll talk about the Cowboys loss, and then we'll get some scouting reports on some of the new Dallas Cowboys, some guys that they've signed here in this 2025 free agent, or they will sign in this 2025 free agency period. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
And we're going to overtime.
Erica, how much have I spent on concessions?
For questions about their money, Dallas Cowboys fans can turn to Erica, the virtual financial assistant in the Bank of America mobile banking app. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/Erica by your side. Bank of America, official bank of the Dallas Cowboys. Erica responses may vary. Digital tools featured require downloading the mobile banking app and may only be available on select mobile devices. Erica is a mobile feature only available in the English language. Your chat may be recorded and monitored for quality assurance. Message and data rates and additional terms may apply. Bank of America, N.A., member FDIC.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to the break.
AT&T, connecting changes everything.
Thank you, Mrs. Garcia. We appreciate you guys, Jones. We're back. Final segment of the break live from SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Let's talk about Chauncey Golston. He signs with the New York Giants, 3-year deal, $19.5 million. I guess my biggest question, and we're going to get to Solomon Thomas in a minute when we talk about some of the guys they've played, but when I saw this signing, it made me think, well, did the Cowboys get – they got a guy who's versatile on the defensive line. Did they get a guy who is essentially a Chauncey Golston type player with a little more experience, maybe a little more wear on the tires, but a little more experience, but that kind of player?
I think he's kind of the inverse of Chauncey Golston in the sense of
more defensive
tackle, and I think he was forced at times to go to end, and it never really panned out for him in my eyes, at least at 295. Put that guy inside.
Yeah.
This Chauncey Golston signing is interesting to me, just because I feel like when you look at this Giants roster, yes, he's going to get playing time, but are we sure he's going to get as much playing time as he would if he had returned to Dallas? And for a $6.5 million price tag, this was one that was just surprising to me. Stayed in division for a price I figured would have been higher. I thought he would have been closer to $10 million, honestly. But he fell at the 6.5 mark. It was 6.5 per year, right? If I'm remembering right.
Yep.
It's this one was surprising to me. It really was.
Yeah, the thing that this is going to sound terrible. I think this is on the player. And I mean on the player, meaning on the player, but I guess I could put some blame on the Cowboys and previous regime. They never figured out a spot for this guy. You know, it's like we were always kind of waiting for him. Is he an end? Is he a tackle? Everybody kind of had their idea. Like we were at training camp and you would see him playing outside and you're like, why is he playing outside? He needs to play inside. And then they play him inside. Oh, wow, all of a sudden he starts playing well. You know, and you just kind of wonder, like, it's very reminiscent of what we saw with Tyron Crawford's career, where he was like, they didn't know. Is he a 3 technique? Is he an end? What is this guy? So the player just struggled with that. I mean, this year was probably the best year you've ever seen him play. But is that because the front office and the coaching staff couldn't figure out a spot for him? I think that it was one of those things that's probably too late. If he would have played like this 2 years ago, maybe you do have an extension here. Maybe, and I'm blaming him, but yeah, I guess I need to blame the coaching staff and the front office because nobody ever figured out where this guy needed to play. And so, yeah, and I think that's why you see the contract the way it is. You know, there's just some questions. Wow, could he have stayed? And sure, but I think there was like, wow, he only did this for 1 year. So we were always waiting for him. He was going to be the Tank Lawrence replacement guy. It just never materialized that way. It's on the player and it's on the front office and the coaching staff for not figuring out quickly enough where he needed to be.
And just to clarify my point really quick, it's not necessarily a surprise that he departed Dallas. I think I expected that. The surprise is how it came about. Staying in division for that type of a price and going to a team where there are a lot of edge bodies. So you would have to think that maybe he would be factored into their interior defensive line situation.
Yeah, they don't know where to play him. Yeah. And they're giving him $6.5 million.
Let me ask you guys this, because you mentioned that, like you mentioned Crawford as well, and I know there's been a number of guys that you always find yourself having the same type of situation where is he this or is it that? Is that just kind of by default of what happens in the roster that you're always gonna have a guy that kind of plays that role that you're uncertain of what they're gonna be?
This team's had a lot. Think about some of the draft picks that they've had in the secondary that they couldn't figure out if they were corners. They did it with damn Byron Jones. Couldn't figure out if Byron Jones was a corner or safety. You know, they didn't draft. They didn't. Our guy that in the Zeke draft, the corner from Florida State at the time, the safety that. Who am I? I mean, the same draft, 2016 draft.
Yeah,
from Florida.
I'm blanking as well.
I'm blanking on it's the corner, the big time corner. Why do I can't remember damn names when I need to remember names? But it's with the Rams, the Dolphins. He's playing with the Dolphins now.
Jalen Ramsey.
God.
Yeah.
Sorry. Too many names.
I thought you were meaning a Cowboys draft.
No.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was a 2016 draft. They couldn't figure out where to play damn Jalen Ramsey. They couldn't. Is he a corner? Is he say, well, we need to take Zeke? Well, wait a minute. You got this guy, you know, this is an issue when you don't have an understanding of where your guy needs to be and you don't have a plan for him or an understanding of him. Then what happens is you might have him and then he goes off somewhere else. And you're like, wow, that was a loss right there. Byron Jones. Yeah. I mean, I know he went off to Miami and it didn't work out great for him, but Byron Jones, all of a sudden he's playing corner. No way he's playing safety. What is he? And see, that's the uncertainty of your roster. I think that affects the way that you build your team. And unfortunately for some of these players, like Chauncey Golston, I think that you developed Chauncey Golston. He should probably still be here playing. But that's on him and that's on the coaches for not getting it done.
I think that's a product also of
it's one of the cons. Ramsey. I'm sorry.
It's one of the cons of the scouting department seeking out versatile players, and I honestly think it is a correct approach. And it's go find guys with versatility that can give you an impact in multiple spots. I mean, let's look at the roster right now. Guys that they have toyed around with in multiple spots: Tyler Smith, Awesome Richards. We've talked about the idea of Cooper Beebe. They have talked about the idea of Cooper Beebe. Obviously, it hadn't happened on the defensive side of the ball. Micah Parsons. We've seen that get moved around. Deron Bland in some instances. Israel Mukwamu. That is one of the cons when you run into a situation like Chauncey Golston where you're trying to force it at maybe a spot where he's not as natural at. But I would take the wins on the flip side of that, the wins of Tyler Smith, the wins of Micah Parsons.
They won't play Tyler Smith at tackle. They will fight you,
and it makes the roster
They will
better.
fight you to play Tyler Smith at tackle. They will fight you about that.
Yeah.
They won't do it. So is that flexibility, or do they've come to their senses like if we move this guy, we're going to hurt him? Is that really what it is?
Honestly, I think they've seen at this point that he is a all-pro guard, and they're like, there's no point to move him back. Like you already know he's an all-pro guard. Yeah. Don't take a chance with will he be an all-pro center? I mean, all-pro tackle. We know he's an all-pro guard. Keep him at guard.
Let's try him at center too. Let's see.
Right now.
I wonder if like the thought about Cooper Beebe. You know, could Cooper Beebe be your right guard? And I wonder what Coach Riley's coming in here with the idea of like, wow, you know what? I didn't think about playing him. I mean, I just played him at guard when I was at Kansas State. Yeah. Man, this guy was a damn good guard. wow, he plays center this well? Okay. So, there needs to be, to me, I used to think, and like Nick, I used to think like you, that position flex was this great blessing. It's not. It's a curse. Because what happens is you don't figure out the player's position quick enough. You just like, well, he could do this, he could do that, position flex.
In theory, it sounds good.
In theory, it sounds great.
So when they bring in Tyler Smith as a tackle, that's what he's drafted at.
Yeah.
And they just never give him the opportunity at guard. You would have been okay with that.
I was surprised. Honestly, though, to me, the fact that he had to play guard was because of Tyron Smith. If Tyron Smith's not here, he's probably going to be your starting left tackle. Tyron Smith got hurt. He played well enough to be your starting tackle going forward.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden Tyron Smith comes back, and what do they have to do? They had to put him back at guard.
And then they find out he's an all-pro guard. Yeah. They keep him there. Like, that's the point, though. Like, I think that's what Nick is saying, is that level of flexibility is what got him to the guard position because of the injury, right?
I think it was out of necessity is what that was. The fact that he played tackle at Tulsa, okay, fine. But to me, play these guys where you feel like they could be their absolute best.
Where do you think where do you think he'd be best fit?
Left tackle. Yeah.
Well, versatility kind of absolves the need of being.
That was an emergency.
Necessity.
That was an emergency.
Yeah, but
okay, if you had to take a guess, what's the ratio here? What are we looking at versus things that were successful stories?
Yeah.
Because of versatility.
Yeah.
Or things that just like what we just talked about.
Israel McQuamu.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going down the list of versatile guys that don't do, wow, he's a nickel corner. No, wait, he's a slot. Wait, is he a safety? And then he doesn't do it. And then you're like, well, what is he? And then you waste opportunity with it.
I think that's more so a coaching thing rather than it is a player or
that's what I've been arguing the last 4 minutes.
Scouting department philosophy.
Sure.
It's more so like, okay, he has the ability to play these multiple spots. That is why we are drafting this guy. So we're going to try him at these multiple spots. I think at this point, when you're talking about an Israel McQuamu or you're talking about a Chauncey Golston, trying him at these multiple spots just went on for a little too long. And if that's your argument, I agree with
that is my argument. When you tell me
it's not the flex, it's how long they take to make a decision.
When you tell me, and if I'm sitting in a draft room and you go and he goes, this guy's got position flex, I immediately go, Nick, what's his best position? Because I am not going to be interested in trying him sometimes here, sometimes there, and then I look up and now he's gone. He's somewhere else because I didn't play him at the position that he needs to be playing at.
I'll tell you this. With Chauncey Golston, I think one of the things that it looked like to me was he may have looked at this situation and thought, I don't know where I fit with this team moving forward. And Marshawn Nealon is, in my opinion, a guy that they drafted to replace Tank Lawrence at whatever point Tank Lawrence is no longer here. He still is, I would think, at this point. There's no guarantee he won't be back next year. I'm talking about Tank. You got Sam Williams, who they drafted in the second round, who got hurt. They're still expecting, hopefully, that he can come back around. So if I'm Chauncey, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I know you're saying, like, it seems like he'd have a lot of opportunity here. I don't know if he felt like there was all this opportunity here because there's so many question marks about so many guys at edge that I look at it, and if I'm him, I'm thinking maybe there are more opportunities for me to play more in New York than there are here because I just don't know what the position looks like here.
Yeah, the thing that made me question was there's so many talented edge bodies, whether it be a Kayvon Thibodeau, which could be a guy that they move on from.
They haven't. I don't think they were completely happy with where they drafted and what they've got.
Oh, absolutely not. They can't be. They can't be. Absolutely. And then Brian Burns, they can't be happy with the return that they've gotten, at least from the 1 year there. So maybe it makes sense from a Giants perspective, like, hey, let's bring in this fresh body who we saw twice last year play really well, and he can be a guy that can kind of push these other guys that were
be a rotation guy for us. Yeah,
for sure, 100%.
Because the money doesn't mean he has to be an immediate starter. I think he could be a rotation guy for them that helps their rotation pretty much.
I'm just not 100% sure he would have had the same opportunity in Dallas. I feel like he maybe would have. But, hey, it's greener pastures for him maybe, and if it works out for him, great. But I'm happy he got paid. He's a good dude. He deserves it.
Yep. Real quick before we end the show, Chuma Edoga, he signs a 2-year deal with Jacksonville. What kind of impact does that have on the Cowboys, if any?
Well, he was like the life raft for the coaching staff.
He certainly was.
No, he was the life raft.
He was, yeah.
He was. I mean, the front office could not ask Mike McCarthy and those guys to play Tyler Guyton. Those coaches were trying to save their jobs, and they saw that Tyler Guyton wasn't ready. The learning curve was too strong. He wasn't ready to play. So they went with the player that gave him the best chance to win. And for the most part, it worked out for him that way. But yeah, this was I'll tell you this, he played far better than I thought he could play. I need to change my opinion about him because I think there was more than just a serviceable guy, a Band-Aid guy. He gave them some good games, some good reps throughout this thing. And he was an absolute life raft for a situation with a rookie that wasn't ready to play.
Yeah, he played left tackle. He filled in at left guard, right guard. It's a good thing he had some versatility, let me tell you. No, but I think bringing in I think
you know what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Austin Richards is going to end up the same way.
Yeah,
you're not going to figure out a position for Austin Richards, and then he'll go off and start for somebody, and then we'll have this discussion again.
Do you need to figure out a position for Austin Richards if you feel comfortable about your front five?
You know what? I just play him. Just find a spot to play him at. Just figure it out. Does he like playing guard? Does he feel more comfortable at guard? Does he feel more comfortable at tackle? They'll tell you, like, if you talk to the player, which I'm sure you have a million times, he'll tell you he wants to play guard. But the fact that he has to be ready for other positions, you do it out of necessity. But to me, find a position for these guys, develop that position, and then maybe you want to sign this guy earlier than you're waiting to the last minute. Like, oh wow, we really developed this guy, and now he's somebody else's property. I'm not interested in doing that anymore.
The thing I think I'm trying to pick your brain on here is like, okay, let's say that
we playing Go Fish again. I did.
We're playing Go Fish again.
Okay.
Let's say, okay, Austin Richards, we want you to be a left tackle.
Yeah.
And we are going to keep you a left tackle.
Yeah.
Tyler Guyton never gets hurt. He succeeds, and you never have to play Austin Richards, but you have all these problems at left guard and right guard. You need somebody to fill in.
I'm playing guards for guards and guards, tackles for tackles.
You look him around the room, and you're like, he's the best guard on our roster. I'm not saying he is. But
if he's the best guard on your roster, then play him at guard.
Right. Not the best guard on your roster, the best guard that you have in the depth of your roster.
Play him at guard.
Okay, but you already had him at tackle because you think he could be a better tackle.
If the thing about
that's what I'm saying is, like, I think the versatility really could work for guys.
Yeah, and versatility really also will make you get signed by the Giants for $6.5 million.
But I guess that's the question. Is he a starting caliber player? Because if he is, then I agree
figure it out.
No, but I'm saying I agree with you, Brian. But here's the problem: if he's not a starter caliber player, if he's always going to be a depth guy, right? If he's always going to be a depth guy, that versatility matters. That's what's going to keep him in the NFL.
He can play both, but what you need to do is you need to make sure that he's playing the one position that he's absolutely, that you feel like, though, that, okay, I think this guy, let's develop the one position. If he has to play guard in a game, I'm fine. But develop him in the one position that he's the best at. Continue to work on that part, because that's the thing you're going to, when something happens, you're going to need him to be ready to be that guy. I think playing guard is just a sometime thing. Playing left tackle, I think, is more what his career path should be.
All right.
I think we're all saying the same thing, just in different ways.
Not me and Nick.
No, because essentially it falls into that. It depends on what.
I'm trying to figure out what y'all are talking about, really, because I kind of agree with Amber. I think it's very similar.
As a judge,
I think y'all just look at it very differently.
Yeah.
He wants position flexibility. I'm interested in, and I think I got this right, Nick. You're interested in keep working guys at both spots. I'm more interested in developing the guy at the spot that they're their absolute best at. And if they have to play the other position, then so be it. But I'm not spending a lot of reps trying to develop them at both positions. I'm going to pick at the.
But I think that's what Nick's saying, right? I don't think Nick's saying you need to split their reps in practice. What I think he is. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would see that. And more so early on.
Want to close this show?
More so early on. I'll make this quick, I promise. More so early on in a career. Like, by the time you get to your second training camp, yes, I'm with you, Brian.
Yeah.
Once you get to the back half of your second training camp, it's like, all right, man, we're gonna keep you here.
Yeah.
And if we need to fill you in another spot, then we'll train you at that spot. But as of right now, we're gonna move forward. I'm saying from a scouting perspective, I would love to go get versatility. I would love to find versatility because this guy could have an impact in multiple spots. But to credit to your philosophy, you look at a program like the Ravens, specifically in their secondary, they draft so many versatile DBs, but they bring them in, they figure out where they're at training camp. They're like, we're keeping you at corner, we're keeping you at safety. So there is credit to your type of philosophy, but I think there's also credit to the versatility philosophy. It's just kind of two different ways of thinking about things.
I've seen this
but I understand where you're coming from.
I appreciate that. I've seen this organization waste guys are here. I've seen them just because of position flex, because they haven't found the right position, and then these guys go away.
They waited too long. And I'm with you there. I agree with you. 100%.
All right, we appreciate it.
Truce. Great debate.
Far
Love
from
it.
it.
We'll be back.
You on the draft show tomorrow?
We are. Let's do it again.
More of it.
Third time's
we'll
a
be back.
charm.
We'll be back next week. We'll have more to talk about. Hopefully, the Cowboys will have some more signings we can get into. We still have not gotten our scouting reports, so we'll do that a little bit next week. Talk about some of the guys that they've signed and brought on to the team. Till then, for Nick Harris, Bryan Broaddus, and Ambar Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this,